This week, the news cycle has been dominated by a lot. Developments, particularly out of Mar-a-Lago, about classified documents. But there are other big news stories. Yesterday's passage of the Inflation Reduction Act in the House of Representatives. President Biden plans to sign this monumental climate change and health care bill into law next week. It is the latest in a string of legislative victories and achievements for his administration. Plus, there's some indication that the midterm elections may not be the bloodbath for Democrats that's been predicted. The latest Fox News poll of registered voters shows 41% would back the Democratic candidate in their House district, a tie with Republicans. Back in May, Republicans had a 7-point advantage. Joining me now is a man who's following all of this very closely, Jamie Harrison, the chairman of the Democratic National Committee. Jamie, welcome to you. I definitely want to ask you all about the midterms in a moment. But first, we have to talk about these stunning developments, the top secret and other classified documents retrieved during an FBI search of the former president's home in Florida. Your counterpart at the Republican National Committee is calling the search an abuse of power and the weaponization of the Justice Department. What is your reaction to that?
Listen, Simone, first of all, congratulations. I haven't seen you since the wedding, so congratulations again. As it relates to the RNC and Ronna, listen, nobody is above the law in this country, not even a former president. And it says a lot that they can't even understand an independent DOJ following the facts after Trump's abuse over 4 years. I know that under the Trump administration, the DOJ was just an extension of the Trump White House, but that's not the case. We're going back to the DOJ doing what they do in an independent fashion without politics, without the White House input. So it's sad, but Ronna, if you follow Ronna, her exaggerations and lies is just commonplace, and that's just what we get when we look at this today's Republican Party.
All right, let's get back to the midterms. Now, historically, we've all been hearing about it. The party in power loses an average of 26 seats in midterm elections. According to NBC News reporting, the Democrats really only have a slim 9-seat majority right now. You have said, though, that the Democrats could hold that majority in November. Frankly, I think you may be right, and I did not think that 6 months ago. But when you look at the history, plus inflation, plus the president's poll numbers, and they're low, what makes you optimistic? I know what makes me optimistic. What about you?
Well, we see the momentum on our side, the Joe-mentum, if you want to say. Listen, Simone, in the end of the day, you probably know better than anybody else. Don't bet against Joe Biden. He was down and out going into the primary, going into South Carolina, and we saw what happened. He got the win behind his sails, and he was able to not only win the primary victory, but he also went on to win the presidency. It's the same thing. Even though the agenda was stalled for a second, you look at what Joe Biden and Democrats in the House and Senate have been able to accomplish, and really you have to step back and look at it in the historical context. I mean, this man has a 50-50 United States Senate, less than a 5-seat majority right now. And what have we accomplished in 2 years? It's almost more than what you would see in a presidency over 8 years. The Inflation Reduction Act just got passed. He's going to sign it this week. The CHIPS Act he just signed last week. He passed the PACT Act to support our veterans. The American Rescue Plan, the bipartisan infrastructure law, putting a black woman on the Supreme Court, the Violence Against Women Act reauthorization, gun safety laws for the first time in 30 years, record low unemployment. And I mean,
there's a long list.
Yes,
we actually have a chart, Jamie. I want to put this graphic up on the screen for folks. Actually, they're telling me we don't have the graphic, but I'm gonna show the graphic during the show because a lot has gotten done, and you just listed it off. You ticked it off right here, and I do think that there has been criticism of you, of the Democratic National Committee, talking about the lack of effective messaging around the president. But I just heard effective messaging around the president's legislative agenda. You made the point that these victories didn't start a few weeks ago. He's been getting these things done for a while. So we are still, though, hearing, Jamie, folks suggesting that, and not even just any folks, I'm talking about Democrats, saying that the president should not run for re-election. But these legislative accomplishments happened on his watch. He led the party into doing this. Why do you not think the apparatus isn't rallying around the president more?
Well, I think those folks need to focus on what's important, which is doing the work of the American people. And that I can tell you, that's what Joe Biden and Kamala Harris are focused on each and every day. That's what Nancy Pelosi and Chuck Schumer are focused on each and every day. And everybody else needs to focus on that. If folks got a lot of extra energy to criticize, let me give them something they can do, all of the do something. Go to Democrats.org, go and click on that take action button, and you can make some more phone calls to some of these voters to make sure that they're registered to vote and they're ready to go and vote for Democrats in the House and the Senate and in our legislative bodies across the states this November. Because we got to focus on what's at hand. Rome is burning because of Republican extremism, and we need to focus on keeping our majorities, growing those majorities, and continuing to do the work to improve the lives of the American people.
I could not agree with you more. I think that there is a messaging piece of this, but then there's also this piece about democracy itself. Many states have election deniers on the Republican ballot. Some, like Arizona's Carrie Lake, she's running for governor. She's making false claims about election fraud and undermining trust in the system. You got Michigan, another battleground. There are reports of Republican groups encouraging election workers to disrupt voting sites by calling 911 to report voting irregularities. And then you got one of the candidates for Attorney General in Michigan who's accused in a plot to seize and tamper with voting tabulation machines. There is just too much going on. And so you have talked about a 50-state voter protection strategy. Tell us more about that, and what is exactly the plan for this fall, because I am concerned.
Well, Simone, listen, as you know, when you were with the vice president, we announced on the campus of Howard University last summer a $25 million program for our voter protection, our voter education, and counter subversive activity that we see in many of our states. And so for over a year, we have been building the largest voter protection program in the history of the DNC. We got voter protection staff all over the country working hand in glove with our state parties, building out an operation to make sure that voters have all the education that they need, the materials that they need, and to make sure that we can push back against Republican attempts to keep voters from the polls, to keep them from having their votes count. And so that's been happening for well over a year, along with so much more. I mean, we are pouring money into state parties like we have never done before. When I was a state party chair, we got $5,000 a month from the DNC.
That's not a lot of money for folks who are asking, to be very clear.
Not a lot. Right now, each state party is getting at least $15,000 a month, the South Carolina party, on top of a number of grants and all that we're providing to our state parties to do voter registration for the first time in 30 years. So there's so much going on right now. People aren't going to hear a whole lot of headlines about it. I'm not going to be on their couch to give them the updates on it. But we are investing in the infrastructure of this party, and that is the thing that is going to make the difference in November.
All right. Well, Jamie Harrison, thank you, my friend, for being here and shedding a little light on what's going on.